guys, what's up? Wednesday evening once again, which means you are locked into Optimus Tom in the Zone, my little Learn to League of Legends show where you guys get to be a better summoner. And what a show it will be, because it is going to be my 30th episode of In the Zone, which is, first off, a lot of episodes of In the Zone. June's been doing this for over half a year now. I've been doing it for over half a year for a while, I guess, but still. 30 sounds like some sort of monumental, momentous number that should be hailed and praised or something along the lines of that. So, I kind of figured I'd point it out. But as you did see from a little bit of an intro video there, we do have the LeagueCraft GG Classic has been announced. I'm very excited for that. Lots of awesome teams invited from not just North America this time, like the first one, but from all over the world. You see European teams, you see Asian teams in there, which is fantastic. So, awesome stuff coming up from GD Chronicle. You guys definitely tune into that. Of course, the dates were announced on the thing. I believe it's the 14th and 15th of July and the 22nd and 23rd for the final stage. Group stages, Group A, Group B. Top 4 teams come together into the finals weekend. Double elimination bracket. Very awesome stuff. Or 8 teams. I don't know how many. Double elimination bracket after a round-robin tournament. So, regardless, going to be awesome. And best part about it is there's no extended series. So, it's not MLG. It's a little bit better than that. But very awesome stuff coming out of there. I am very excited for that. I'm very excited for In the Zone as I throw my pen, which I might actually need, so I'm going to hang on to this one for a second. Very excited for that. Very excited for In the Zone, and very tired. Had to work again at 5:15 in the morning, come home, prep In the Zone, do In the Zone, have to cast for IPL later, which you guys should check out because it's going to be awesome. Me and Sully get to cast that once again. Awesome dude. Awesome cast. I think it's we're casting, I believe it's a semifinals match between Curse NA and Ordnance Gaming. So you guys should definitely check that out because it's going to be awesome. It's going to be on like literally after In the Zone. So anyway, amazing topic that I'm really excited to talk about today was actually submitted by Colin on our Facebook page, which we do have a Facebook page, ladies and gentlemen. You should check it out. It's right there. Right underneath Ari's many tales. Facebook.com/OptimusTomTV. Of course, you can get to me on Twitter at twitter.com/OptimusTom or just at OptimusTom because I do listen to you guys. Obscurica submitted something from last week that we wound up covering, and now Colin's going to get his topic covered today. So I'm actually going to pull up my Facebook page so I can read it word for word on her. So we can, I'm not paraphrasing at all, which would be terrible, of course. So it actually starts out one of my favorite lines of all time, which may or may not be why I've done this one. It says, Optimus Tom TV. I've been watching Rain Man in spectator mode. Fantastic! And I've noticed that many of his teammates pick up gold pretend items. During the recent game that Rainman played as Tristana, he started boots and potions, then built Kage's pick and a heart of gold. By mid-game, three of his teammates have picked up a Philosopher's Stone. I've never seen a build like this. Is it a good way to start if you're playing passive, or will it hinder your late game? Also, this is the part that I really like, can you do the In the Zone on how to adjust your build when you are behind? So that's what In the Zone's on today, if you guys have paid attention to Twitter or anything at all in the past couple hours. But what you're going to be learning about today is not only how can you adjust your build when you're behind, how can you adjust your play style, what you're going to want to do in order to come from behind and kind of pull out a victory when you're playing against these people. Because it's going to be very difficult. One of the hardest things about League of Legends, especially for newer players to the game, is when you're losing, how do you turn it into now I'm winning? Because that is, it's not a very easy thing to do. I'm sorry, like the camera's a little bit weird too. I've actually, I stood up before, and my chair broke. So now I'm using a regular chair. So it's not as high. So I'm like in a different position. So you guys get like a different view of the house and everything, which is you may see people walking in the background, so it'll be fine. It's just I'm on a different angle because my chair, it was fine like 2 seconds ago. It was fine, and then like I stood up and it decided to snap in half. Like I didn't sit down on it and it broke. It just stood up, and it was just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna give now. It's like, oh, Optimus Tom moved from his chair and he's not playing League of Legends right now, so there's no reason to live in this world anymore. It's kind of offed itself, cut its head off. It was pretty cool. It was like a clean cut, and it like broke the chair into 3 different pieces. I don't know how one clean cut broke it into 3 pieces, but regardless, I now am on a different chair, so you guys get a view of my bathroom behind me. So you may see people walking in and out of the bathroom. So apologies for that one. or people making faces at me, which I'm pretty sure has happened already. But regardless of this, Colin wanted to know what you're going to want to do in order to come back from playing from behind, which is, like I said, one of the more difficult things to do if you're playing League of Legends. Now, not only am I going to talk about how you're going to adjust your build to do this, how you adjust your play style, and eventually, if I have enough time, I'm going to try to talk about how your team can come from behind. It's one of those things that I've actually talked about before. There's an In The Zone episode I did between Dignitas and Curse NA in the original Curse Invitational, I believe it was, where Curse wound up destroying Dignitas' base twice. All the inhibitors, everything, the Nexus turrets were down. And Dignitas wound up coming from behind, stalling out at Baron twice, and winning the game. So it was a very, very impressive come-from-behind victory. So very, very awesome stuff from that. So it is possible to come from behind and win. It's just extremely, extremely difficult to do so. I actually have some accidental game footage of me playing from the other night with a couple of friends that I'm actually going to pop in here too. So I do have a lot of information about how Colin and everybody else can come back and win from behind. So first off, if you're behind in a lane, you're going to have to identify why you're behind. There is mainly 3 major reasons why you're going to be behind in the lane. First off is your character selection. Did you get outpicked? If you're playing against someone who is technically a counter to your character, you are always going to start the game from behind. You know, if you're, let's think of a very, very easy counter. Okay, back in a tournament play a couple months ago, if you picked Akali, you were straight out countered by Garen because he could silence you. You couldn't really hurt him because he was tanky, and if he went invisible, he just spun on top of you and destroyed you. So let's just say you picked Akali, and your opponent was like, "Oh, I got this because we're in draft mode. It's really easy to counter pick you if you first pick Akali. I'm gonna pick Garen, and that's how I'm gonna counter you." So okay, how are you going to come back into that game even though you're technically counter picked? Of course, the other champion's skill set is going to be designed to shut you down. That's why it's called a counter pick. So it's very, very difficult to come back from those situations to even break even, let alone, you know, come from behind to pull out a victory in your laning phase in that. So that's one way that you can be stuck from behind. Another one is going to be, are you losing the CS war? Being behind in creep score means you're going to be behind in gold. Being behind in gold means that your opponent is winning in the lane, and of course he's going to have a natural advantage over you. Being down in CS could be something as differential as 10 CS or something as major as being doubled or tripled in CS, which is going to be obviously very bad for you, and you don't want that happening. So you're going to have to identify, why am I down in CS? You know, am I being too aggressive, or am I not trading successfully, and that's why they're able to get a creep score advantage over me? Am I being zoned out of my CS by a champion that just has that natural advantage over me? Or am I causing so much of a threat that the enemy jungler is camping my lane, therefore I'm not able to CS, therefore his ally, my lane opponent, is now generating some sort of advantage over me. So you have to kind of figure out what's going to happen there. And then the third and final choice for why you're going to be behind is, are you feeding your lane? Now, this is going to be one of the harder things to combat. If obviously you go into a lane and the opponent kills you, they have a kill up on you. They have all the extra time for experience, all the extra time to farm up gold, and of course the natural gold they're going to be getting from, well, killing you. So it's going to be one of the more difficult positions to come back from, but you have to identify, okay, which of these 3 reasons or sub-reasons is why I'm behind in my creep score, and am I going to be able to deal with it effectively? So, you know, as I'm looking over here to load up a video that actually didn't actually have all loaded up for for myself already, but you're going to have to identify, okay, which one of these reasons is it that I'm losing, and how am I going to successfully come from behind in this one? So step 2 is going to be, how are you going to correct this bad behavior? And obviously, it's going to be different every single time you go into a game. You're going to be obviously identifying one of these problems, and this is how you're going to have to combat it. If you're being outpicked, you're going to have to try to build to fight your opponent. This is something that we see, even if you're not being counterpicked, this is something that the pros will do, especially in the middle lane. Have you ever seen a Morgana or an Ahri rush an Abyssal Scepter, and you're like, okay, well, it gives ability power, that's really good. It gives magic penetration aura, that's really good. Okay, why else did you get it? It gives magic resistance. You can go like Doran's Ring, Sorcerer's Shoes, Negatron Cloak. And your opponent, who's dealing predominantly AP damage to you now has to fight through magic resistance on top of the health that you stacked on top of this. We've already talked about effective HP in a previous In the Zone, and you know how much extra that is going to give you the more magic resistance that you have, meaning that instead of their spells having to do like the 200 damage that you have on your HP, they're probably going to have to deal more like 350 to actually break through that 200 that extra effective HP into the 200 HP you're going to actually take in damage. So building something like that will effectively get you an advantage in the lane by building defensively. So even though you're not going to be dealing as much burst damage and maybe not even farming as well because you're not building enough damage as the creeps scale up into the game, especially like if you're on a Morgana and you want to be farming with that pool, if when you hit it at level 3, like right out of the get-go, it one-shots the range minion wave. If you're building a little bit more tanky and you don't have this extra ability power and you kind of stall out on this for a little bit, you might not be able to farm as effectively, but you'll be able to trade more effectively and generate an advantage in your lane. So naturally, if you have an advantage in your lane, you're going to get those CS anyway because you're forcing your opponent away from you, forcing them away from their own CS, and then you, in effect, are going to be the one ahead in lane, and they are going to be playing from behind. So altering your item build is going to be something that you can really keep in mind if you're being outpicked. You can also alter your play style. One of the things is when you counter pick somebody in a draft mode game, or if you're in a blind pick game, you just blindly walk in, and you're just like, well, okay, I'm going to play like Warwick, and all of a sudden you get matched up against a solo top Olaf, and you're like, great, Olaf's going to poop all over me in this game. How am I going to combat against this? You're going to want to see if maybe you can change the play style of your champion. Not necessarily alter your build, especially if you've already locked in with a certain kind of rune and mastery page, but how are you going to play the champion differently that doesn't fall into the basic kind of lines of, oh, okay, well, if I go up and Olaf hits level 2, he's going to try to throw an axe at me and then chase me down and combo me out with reckless swings, and I'm not going to have enough sustain in the early game to really combat that as playing Warwick, so what am I going to do? Well, maybe I'll play a little bit more passively and cause Olaf to overextend, and if I can work it out with my jungler, maybe he can go get a leash on wolves in blue very, very early, go to the red buff, and then come gank me very quickly with a red buff gank at level 3. That could be something you could work out with your team, which requires a little bit more team communication, but once you get that initial kill or push Olaf out of the way, you are going to have the advantage over him, and he's going to be at a disadvantage to you, especially because as a Warwick in that situation, with your self-sustain, you're naturally going to be able to keep yourself in lane. Even if Olaf is going to try to go in there and trade with you, you're going to be evened out a little bit because of the natural advantage you had early on. Another thing you can do is maybe play a little bit more passively and work on farming at your own tower. This is never a really good thing to do, but you can use this to your advantage. If you're farming at your own tower, no one's going to dive you at early levels of the game. It's stupid. You almost get no net worth unless you have 3 or more people or a flawless plan to not let someone die when they dive your tower early game, which usually never happens. You'll probably see this once the ultimates kick in around level 6, and that's really when you have to worry about being tower dive, especially if there's a huge creep wave. But if you could practice last hitting at your tower, it makes a naturally aggressive champion have to play a little more passive. They're either going to stick around, and like I said, your jungler could come in and take advantage of this one, or they're going to have to go back, buy some items, and generate small advantages over you, which you could then compensate by staying in lane longer than them. And naturally, if you're in lane a little bit longer, you can just get more CS than them because they keep having to go back and forth, even if they're able to bully you around in lane. So CSing at your tower, you could practice this when you're playing in the bottom lane. Pick a range carry, and then if you're getting pushed by an aggressive lane comp on bottom, like say like a Corky Leona or something, and you are back against your tower, practice last hitting against the tower. If you're like a champion like Ashe, you have a perfect kit for this because you could just literally sit there and wait for the minions to push and then auto attack the ones that get really, really low, and you're passive to critically strike more. The more you don't attack, the more your critical strike chance goes up. That is going to help you immensely by farming at the tower. And then, of course, you have your volley to really mop up everything else as the tower hits things. You also have to keep in mind that melee champions will get 3-shot by the tower, and ranged minions will get 2-shot by the tower. However, ranged minions are going to have enough HP where the tower can shoot them once, and if you shoot them again with just a basic regular attack, no really extra damage added onto it, you will not kill them. You'll get them to like 20 HP, and the tower will get the last shot. So you can use Ashe effectively in this case by last hitting the melee creeps as the tower hits them twice. You can pick them off, then volley at the range minions. That gives you that extra regular damage onto them, which is 1 auto attack. The tower will then hit them to that 20 extra life or whatever it is that they hold on to by the skin of their teeth, and then you can take advantage of this by last hitting with your regular auto attack because it's a lot faster than the tower attacking that way. So that's a way you can practice last hitting your tower. And you can also go into the matchup if you know it's a draft mode matchup and you know that you've been counterpicked. Alter your runes and masteries to try to do something to counteract the fact that this champion is going to be abusing you. You know, we've seen champions go into the top lane against an AD character packing a full armor rune page. We've seen Skara in the mid lane really like picking his all magic resistance page when he plays solo queue for AP middle. He got all magic resistance, so the enemy really can't harass him or do anything to him. He does this a lot on his AP Blitzcrank in the middle lane, and it's super, super effective because even though he doesn't have a lot of scaling AP per level or anything, he's not taking damage. He's built on a naturally tanky character, and he could just build items that add ability power without having really to worry about the fact he needs early defensive items. Excuse me. So it makes it for a very, very deadly combination. So you can alter your runes, you can alter your masteries to try to give yourself a little bit more of an advantage. The last thing you can also do is you can alter your item build. We touched upon this with the Morgana example and the mid lane example, but there's also ways that you can do it if you're already starting from behind. And I actually have a little bit of a video of a game I was playing the other day, I think it was like yesterday or 2 days ago, where I'm just kind of playing around with a bunch of friends, so I decided I'm going to pick Katarina. We get a Fizz on our team. He's a random guy, so taking a quick drink there. So he picks Fizz. I'm like, I guess I'm going Katarina top. And as we can see, you know, if the VLC thing ever went away, that I'm actually going to be matched up against a Vladimir. So if you know anything about Vladimir, he has range. Katarina does not. He has sustain. Katarina does not. So Vladimir in this case kind of looks like a pretty good choice against Katarina. You can see here he's harassing me with transfuses. He's auto-attacking from a range. I have to get close, and I pick Shunpo at level 1 because I'm stupid like that. So I really can't do anything. I have to Shunpo in to get like CS, and he's just going to chase me down. I believe there's a little bit of an engagement that's going to be coming out, which is why I'm leaving this on for right now. Oh, whoa, look, my friend's got first blood in bottom lane. Awesome. But there's going to be like a little engage. Like now we're level 2. You know, he's going to be able to like throw tides of blood at me. He's going to be able to transfuse me. Like I'm going to try to get close to him in between his cooldowns, but I really can't do anything. Get a little bit of CS. He's going to harass me. I have to burn potions. So it looks like it's a very, very like bleak matchup for me in this top lane. I've started Boots and 3 health potions, whereas I don't know what the Vladimir has started, but it doesn't really matter because he has this natural advantage over me. So I need some sort of way to come back into this game to really make it happen. We do have an Alistar jungler, as you saw from the first blood before, so I can use this to my advantage because Alistar has ridiculous early ganks. So one of the things I'm going to be doing is hoping that Alistar can come into my lane and really make a difference. Another thing I'm going to have to do is, besides farming at my tower and trying to make sure I can do this, like you don't want to do that, you can wait for the 1, 2, and then you'd last hit it there. 1, 2, 3. There's the last hit. But other than this, you know, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Vladimir is still harassing the crap out of me. I'm actually going to have to go back probably soon. But one thing I'm going to want to do, if I eventually get there, like here's the gank I was talking about. Have my jungler come up and try to help me. Vladimir has the pool, so it's not always going to be a successful gank. We do get Shunpos off. We get Bouncing Blades off. We get an Ignite, but he actually does not land the combo fully, so we don't get a kill on Vladimir. However, we force Vladimir back and away from lane, and you know eventually he's going to come back in. Alistar waits in the bush, and we will end up picking up a kill. So now that we've got a little bit of an advantage, I'm down in CS. I believe Vladimir has like 27 CS at this point. We can see I just have 16 now. So I'm going to have to generate some sort of other advantage to keep this little bit of like, not a lead, but this little bit of, okay, I can fight Vladimir right now. So I'm actually going to go back soon. There we go. I'm actually going to go back, and since Vladimir is mainly an AP damage champion, he deals magic damage to all his spells, I'm going to go back. And while I'm sitting here thinking, like, all right, I could just go for, like, a Gunblade. I could have went for a Gunblade before. But while I'm farming up in lane, I'm like, all right, what am I going to get here? And I decide to go for some wards. So therefore, I don't overextend. I can be wary of the enemy Jax jungler. Health potions, because I'm going to need those to, like, sustain myself in lane because I don't have the Gunblade yet. And I don't have the natural sustain on transfuse that Vladimir does. And I opt to go for 2 null magic mantles. This is something that we see a lot out of the pro scene. This is very interesting because now I have 90 magic resistance on Katarina. I have 2 null magic mantles, which means one of them I don't know what I'm going to build into at this point in time, but the other one is going to be for Mercury Treads. So people go, Optimus Tom, why don't you just go Mercury Treads, get the extra movement speed, and try to do that over Vladimir? Well, Vladimir is not going to really care about my movement speed. It's not really about the positioning in this matchup. It's about the fact he can harass me, and I really can't do anything about it. So you can see here, his Tides of Blood doesn't even take away a bar of my HP at this point. He did like 25-30 damage with it because I've stacked magic resistance against an ability power caster. Because of this, I can go in, I can Shunpo, I can last hit, and then I can auto attack him, and I can trade more effectively. So now in a disadvantageous matchup, I've been able to generate some advantage. I can even use these Shunpos to go in and make him pop his pool. I've taken a bit of damage, like now I have to use my health potion, I was fighting in a wave of creeps, but now even though Vladimir is pushing towards my tower, he has to be afraid of me because I can go in, pop my ultimate, and potentially pick up kills with Ignite. I do not do this here. I actually chase down, like trying to get him with that last bouncing blade and cannot, but now Vladimir is the one going back, and I'm the one staying in lane to continue my CS. So now I'm at 33 CS, and Vladimir's pretty much around the same area. So now that I can be a little bit harassment-oriented on this Vladimir while surviving the trades effectively, I'm going to be generating an advantage to me despite being at a disadvantage from Champion Select. We can move on a little bit further. We'll see what I actually do with the build. I'm still CSing in lane and Vladimir's nowhere to be found. I'm able to escape Jax with barely any HP because Katarina's kit is a little bit geared towards escaping with the Shunpos. I will go back and pick up my Mercury Treads. I'm probably going to pick up a couple health potions and maybe a ward or two. Yep, just to generate my advantage. Now I have 94 magic resistance, a little bit extra move speed, and I'm not going to be affected by crowd control effects as much because I have the tenacity on the Mercury Tread. So now I still have the very, very magic resistance oriented build against Vladimir, but I'm going to be building a little bit more against the enemy team. This is really, really good because I could see poking in the middle lane here. They have a double AP comp between Vladimir and Morgana, so I'm effectively building resistances to two members of their team. We can continue on. I see that I'm forcing Vladimir out of lane with more than half HP. Fast forward a little bit more. I'm garnering more CS. Our Corki keeps reconnecting and disconnecting and reconnecting and not really doing anything for us. Vladimir's going to try to poke his head up here again. I have, 95 magic resistance at this point because I'm scaling with my melee character on generating attack magic resistance. Vladimir's going to go in by creeps and try to zone me out a little bit, but I'm fine with this because I'm way too close to his tower at this point in time anyway. I see that my Alistar is coming up, so I'm going to try to play a little more like normal, throwing bouncing blades, harassing, going in with a Shunpo to get him to go on me. This will let Alistar go in with a headbutt. He's actually not going to pulverize there. He is going to get Vladimir a little bit low, though, so we know exactly what's going on there. And he will, is he going to go back? Is he going to stick around? It doesn't matter, because now any advantage that Vladimir has had over me is completely diminished because of the jungler and because of my build. We're actually going to see fast-forwarding a little bit more. I'm going to get ganked here again by Jax. Jax is going to pop the stun. I'm going to get red buffed. I'm going to Shunpo away to a minion. Jax is going to come in and try to dive me. It doesn't really work. Alistar comes back in from the jungle, and then we're going to wind up having Jax take tower shots. Vladimir is going to have to pool a little bit early, and now, nothing's really going to become of this. I'm going to fast forward a little bit more. Jax has gone back. Corki has a kill in the bottom lane. Now I'm at a low HP. Alistar comes back in from the jungle. Bait out the Vladimir there. He's going to try to transfuse me. Too much magic resistance. Pop the ultimate. Shunpo back in. Pick up another kill. Barely not going to die to Ignite because Katarina's OP. And as we're actually going to go towards the end of the video here, you can see that now I'm just completely dominating against this Vladimir. I'm able to use my skills super, super effectively. I'm able to go in there and not worry about him trading with me because I'm going to come out successful in these trades. Now at my Hextech Revolver, I have Sustain, and looking at the CS score, I'm actually in the lead 68 to 61. So I took a disadvantageous character like Katarina in a matchup where Vladimir looks like he should be the clear winner, altered the build a little bit, and went for more of a tanky kind of build, and then built Sustain afterwards, and Vladimir just wasn't able to trade effectively with me. So because of this, I wound up generating an advantage in that lane and going a little bit more in my favor. So very, very good way that you can come from a disadvantageous position and then push yourself, kind of towards the lead. Other ways you need to deal with this stuff. If you're down in CS, and that is the reason why you're losing lane, you're going to have to identify a little bit more. If you are being too aggressive, like say, you have like a Corki Leona, and you keep going in on the champions, but you're not CSing, that's why you're behind, you're going to have to play back a little bit more. If you have some sort of character choice that's a little more advantageous in your lane, and that's why you're being aggressive, play it down. That's one thing you're going to have to know. The mind games of League of Legends are almost as effective as actual execution of what the characters can do. If you are threatening to go in on a champion, they are going to play passively. If you keep that threat level up, you can stay back in CS while effectively zoning out your enemy. This means that you don't have to risk going in there and getting ganked by a jungler. You don't have to risk overextending. You don't have to risk maybe losing out in a trade. If you have the threat, fake it. If you have a Corki and a Leona, Leona gets bush control. Bush control in the bottom lane is ridiculous because they have to expend wards on it. If you can counter ward with the pink, if you start 2 greens and a pink and counter ward their bush ward, you are going to be at such a huge advantage. They're going to have to play so far back off of you just because of the threat of something coming out of that bush. This is going to be a threat for lane ganks from your jungler, and if you have an aggressive support like a Leona, like a an Alistar, if you have a Nautilus on your team, if you have a Nocturne on your team, they are going to be at such a frightened point in that lane that you are naturally going to zone them out, and then you will get ahead in CS because of the perceived threat. The actual threat is very scary too. Have you ever played against a Corki Tristana or sorry, wow, that'd be really dumb, like, haha, double ADs, haha, jump in, got him. No. If you've ever played against a Corki Leona or a Tristana Alistar or a lane like that, just the massive amount of damage they could just jump on you with is insane. So of course you're going to want to be scared of that. They could kill you. It's ridiculous. But you don't have to do that. You can just play passively and have the threat there. If the opportunity presents itself, go for it. You're going to generate even more of an advantage by pushing them out of lane or picking up a kill. But you don't have to exert the advantage so much that you get put in a disadvantageous position because of it. Mainly because you could be overextending. If you're overextending, you can get camped. If you get camped by the enemy jungler or another member of the lane, it is a good thing for your team and a bad thing for you. Getting camped means that you are going to be the one getting zoned. It means that if you overextend at all, they are going to punish you for it, and you're going to give your lane an advantage because of this, whether it's because you have to leave or you're feeding someone a kill. It doesn't matter. You're going to be losing out in CS and potentially losing the lane because you are overextending and easily being gankable. This is going to be, mitigated by buying wards or playing a little bit more passively, and if you keep the enemy jungler or another enemy lane by you and continuing to go up to you, it's going to snowball your other lanes. They are going to get an advantage because of this, so that's where it can be good for your team. But it's going to be very, very bad for you if they successfully kill you. If they successfully zone you out so hard, you can't CS. If you lose your lane, that means that the enemy is obviously going to have a stronger champion come the mid to late stages of the game than your team will have. If the jungler is the one zoning you out, your allied jungler can steal the jungle and maybe potentially gank other lanes. But if they are effectively zoning you out, that means that their lane's going to be better than yours. And the junglers, if your jungler's a little bit better than theirs, it might not make as much of a difference as, say, like if a Nasus gets farmed in the top lane because you went in there and tried to just dominate Nasus, and like the enemy jungler Nocturne just constantly camped you, or Nautilus constantly camped you, and then let Nasus farm it to like 500 damage on his Q. It's not a good situation to be in. You're going to lose because of that. So what you're going to have to do is play more passively. You're going to have to maybe play aggressively and keep the jungler or the enemy champion in that lane. Like I said, if your other lanes can push and snowball and gain their own advantage because of it. Otherwise, you're going to want to play passively. You're going to want to call for help from your own jungler or for another lane. And if you catch them out of position and you gank their gank in your lane, then you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of them. So it's going to be a ridiculous advantage for you. That's basically how you're going to have to deal with being camped. You don't want to die. That's basically it. If you die, you lose. The camp has worked successfully. You are now behind, and you're going to have to play a very, very uphill battle to get back into that one. You're going to have to play by playing passively, like I said, calling for ganks, effectively warding, using money on those instead, and it's not going to be a pretty sight. Also, though, you could be being zoned. Being zoned out of CS means that because you're being camped or because the enemy champion has some sort of range or advantage over you, they are denying you farm by keeping you away from the enemy minions until they get all the way back to your tower. We talked about being able to practice last hitting against your tower to generate an advantage even though you're at a disadvantage. You'll just basically stay even in the lane, which means that they're going to be overextended or have to go back and then come back to the lane, and you're going to stay there, and we've already discussed that. So you already know how you're going to be dealing with getting zoned or how you could play into getting zoned against. Another way to do this is obviously calling your jungler. Maybe if you have one of those aggressive champions, be a little more aggressive. If the champion has some way to zone you out of CS because they can auto attack harass you, but melt if you like lunge on them, like Vladimir in that Katarina game. Once Alistar was there and just lunged on him, he was just like, oh no, I'm gonna turn into a pool and I'm gonna run away and I'm gonna melt because I can't do anything against that. But if you they harass you, they could like poke you down and poke you down. And you're like, oh crap, now I have to go back. So you want to maybe play a little more aggressive if you're being zoned and see how the trade works out. If it works unfavorably for you, let's hope not, because then you're feeding. But we'll talk about feeding in a little bit. Before we talk about feeding, though, I actually want to discuss one of the parts that Colin brought up in his question on the Optimus Tom TV Facebook, which was Rain Man. Fucking love Rain Man. But Rain Man streams, you see him getting a lot of gold per 10 items to generate some sort of advantage. Is this a way to come back into the game? Like, what do these items do? Etc., etc. So, of course, being Optimus Tom, I have gone ahead and done math. I've gone ahead and figured out what advantage you can get from this and, like, basically everything. With help, of course, from League of Legends Wikipedia page, we're able to see that gold per 10 items such as Kage's Lucky Pick, Heart of Gold, Avarice Blade, and Philosopher's Stone will be granting 5 gold every 10 seconds. This means that every 10 seconds you will be generating an additional 5 gold. This will roughly work out to basically, 0.5 gold every 2 seconds, 0.25 gold every second, whatever. Naturally, when you are in a game of Summoner's Rift, you will be gaining 13 gold per 10 seconds. So that's 1.3 gold every second. Or the other case with the GP10s, you're going to be adding 0.5 every 10 seconds. So they could generate some sort of advantage. What does this mean for you? Well, this means if you have one GP10 item, you're going to instead of gaining 13 gold every 10 seconds, you're now gaining 18 gold every 10 seconds, or 1.8 gold per second. Well, that's pretty cool. Now I have a little bit of advantage over my opponent. What if I get 2 GP10s? Okay, 2 GP10s means 23 gold per 10 seconds. That's 2.3 gold per second. I'm making a whole extra gold than my opponent, which means that every 10 seconds that go by, every minute I'm in the laning phase, that's an extra 6 gold. Okay, if, the creep camps will spawn like every X seconds, that's like an extra 3 gold over my opponent if we're CSing the same rate. If we're behind, that means I'm generating gold while I'm not really doing anything, and this is going to be great for me because I'm still going to be getting some sort of gold advantage while my opponent is pushing me around. Maybe he's pushing me back to the tower, and we've already discussed what you can do. These GP10 items will eventually pay for themselves in roughly 12 minutes after you get them, so you can view them as kind of like a money sink where you will store, in quotation marks, you'll store your gold in these items that give you some sort of advantage for your champion that can eventually build into better items or be sold back for some sort of value, which normally you wouldn't be able to sell items for value in this game, but because you bought them early and then 12 minutes or later into the game they've already paid for themselves, you can then sell them to some sort of bonus gain and then maybe turn them into an endgame item build. But they're viewed as this gold item that's going to be beneficial to counteract when you're losing creep score, or if you're ahead, you can widen the gap on an advantage. Like I said, most of these will build into useful items or can be sold to the endgame for an item build, but they also add benefits depending on what character you're going to be playing. If you want HP to try to survive trades, you can build a Heart of Gold. If you want extra ability power to try to burst them down a little bit quicker, Kage's Lucky Pick. Philosopher's Stone if you want to survive in the lane and try to keep CSing. That way you could get health and mana regeneration, so you can spam spells to farm, you can keep your HP up in case you're getting your trades, fall back, and you can regenerate a little HP. Avarice Blade's the only one that is a little bit iffy, because Avarice Blade will be adding critical strike chance, and the one thing is, this is one of the only items in the game that will only benefit the user, because it does build into Yomu's Ghost Blade, but it's an active ability item that will only add attack damage, critical strike, cooldown reduction, things that benefit one person. Thing is, with the other items such as Heart of Gold and Kage's Lucky Pick, and even Philosopher's Stone, you could build these into Randuin's Omen or Lock of the Iron Solari, Shirelia's Reverie. You could build this into a Morella's Evil Tome or, a Deathfire Grass. But they have uses that will be beneficial to multiple members of the team in addition to the person that you're building it on to try to survive your lane. So GP10 items are going to be a really good way to counteract smaller gaps in CS, not necessarily like I'm losing my lane hard, therefore if I buy GP10 items, I will get back into my game. That's true. They're going to be used in conjunction with your thought process from before we talked about in order to get yourself back to a state where you can kind of equalize the lane, if not start to pull ahead. So it's not necessarily I build GP10 items, therefore I get gold and I can stay in my lane and not do anything and still be able to fight this person. Not at all. You're not going to be able to win trades effectively because you have GP10 items. You can, however, use them to your advantage. Like I said, harder gold gives you extra HP. You know, whatever one is going to benefit your champion, go for that one. If there's two that benefit your champion and you think you can get them to generate even more of a gold advantage over your opponent, then by all means get two of them. Lots of people go Heart of Gold Philosopher's Stone. Kage's pick Philosopher's Stone. We see this in the middle lane from Skara. We see this on top lane builds with Darius and other champions. And of course, you have the overpowered support characters that build all the GP10 items and are going to be able to just spiral into their items despite not getting CS and maybe only getting a handful of assisting games while buying wards. You know, these GP10 items are also a good way to counteract the buying of wards because the extra gold you generate can build into health potions, build into wards to help keep you alive in addition to their benefits on their statistics, which you can, like I said, keep you alive or maybe help you do better in trades. So GP10 items are one way that you can come back into your laning phase with with any kind of champion if you're like a little bit behind. Another set of items that are going to be granting you a different advantage in the lane, though, are going to be the Doran's items. So right here I have Doran's Blade, because this is one you probably see in top lane or in the bottom lane, adding attack damage, health, and lifesteal. We also have Doran's Shield, which will be adding armor in addition to health regen and life. And then, of course, we have, if we go into Doran's Ring, we have life, mana regeneration, and ability power. So the thing is with Doran's items, they're used to generate an immediate advantage. It's kind of like the opposite of GP10s, where GP10s will let you kind of slowly come back and gain a gold advantage and everything like that. Doran's items are used to generate an immediate in-the-now advantage. Doran's items offer enough statistics to give you an edge in lane or on one-on-one engagements to win trades. You must then use this temporary advantage to either pull ahead in CS, take down a tower, get kills, anything like that. So you're not going to be building Doran's items thinking like, oh, I have Doran's items, I'm going to be good for this lane, I'm going to win the lane hands down. It's not what you're going to be doing. You're going to be building Doran's items to generate a now immediate advantage, and when you have that advantage, you're going to be able to do something with it which will catapult your laning phase ahead. You don't go on Riven, I build Doran's Blades because that's the build and that gives me maximize on my damage and help you win the lane. You build Doran's Blades on Riven because Riven has a very champion abusive skill set. She has mobility, a stun, and can shield herself and reposition herself. Doing this while stacking Doran's Blades on top of Riven in addition to your runes and mastery pages is going to be beneficial because Riven's things are going to scale off that little bit of damage. She's going to be granted a little extra health, which will help her survive those trades, in addition to her shield, which is going to be, a little bit more effective HP. Then she's also going to be getting a teeny tiny bit of lifesteal on all that physical damage, which will eventually, work out. Like if she's dealing 100 damage, that's 3 extra life. That could be, like a couple ticks of Ignite, and she's healing that damage back. It could be something like that. So either giving an immediate advantage to Riven, and she can abuse the skill set she has on top of these immediate advantages to bully her opponents around. The opponent then has the move to go back and buy items in the now to counter the Doran's Blade, like building their own Doran's items to stand up to Riven in trades, and now they're going to be on equal footing, if not have the person who went back last at a more advantage because they have more items or better items because of this. But it's also going to leave Riven the space of, if they go back, now Riven can take the advantage and farm up CS. They could push to the tower. She could wander and gank other lanes. So it's not necessarily the Doran's item which will be bringing you back into the game, but the now effect the Doran's item has that you can use to your advantage to spiral some sort of control. So you're not going to be like, I'm building Doran's items, I'm going to win this game for us. It's not how it works. It would be cool if Doran's items were somehow a really cool item and you could build them all the time. Then, we'd have 5 Doran's Blade builds and it wouldn't be kind of fun like that. So you're going to have to, keep that in mind, that Doran's items generate some sort of advantage, not necessarily win you the game. So something you're going to want to keep in mind whenever you're using them. The third and final point of, if I'm playing from behind, what can I do to counteract it, blah, 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 blah. Well, you're going to want to, see if you're feeding your lane. If you're feeding your lane, a lot of bad things can happen. Like if you're feeding away kills, well, then obviously you're going to be behind because they have a kill on you. That's going to give you downtime because you're dead, and time for them to get more CS, time for you to generate more of an advantage, time for you to do a lot of different things. So you're going to have to be very, very careful about this, because if you die, that's insurmountable advantage and time your opponent has to take a lead or take an advantage. So you're going to want to do a couple things to do this. If you can get teamwork down pat, that's great, because then you could jungle gang, you could get yourself back into this one. If you are not getting ganks, or maybe you're getting camped and that's why you're dying, you're going to have to play extremely passively, and you're going to have to play for the later stages of the game. Maybe you're being too aggressive and you got killed because of it, and now you can't be aggressive anymore. You're going to have to find and weave your way for your openings to see what happens. And I have a perfect example of how stupid I can be and how much of an advantage I can give up, especially when I'm playing like shitty characters like Xin Zhao, and they pick Fiora in the top lane. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to harass her. I'm level 1. Ha 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 ha. She's going to parry me. Well, I'm going to wait to use my 3 Talon Strikes, 3rd strike to, get the knock up on her. Ha ha ha. Oh, wait, I took way too much damage from that one. I burned my Ignite. Oh, well. Maybe I'll be able to get another effective trait because I built cloth armor and 5 health potions. So did she, but, I have 2 more armor. Maybe I have more HP than her. Maybe I could go in and do this. Oh, I do. Okay. So maybe I could do this eventually anyway if I bait out her parry. Let me get the slow thing, because if I charge in, that's going to make her think that I'm going to use it right away. She could pop the parry, I could run away, and then when the parry goes down, I could come back with my 3 Talon Strike. Oh, okay, well, she parried it, and I did not, she parried the first hit, not the third hit. Oh, man, I went into a bunch of creeps. I'm taking way too much damage. Let me pop my... Oh, shit, there's an Udyr here. I forgot. He went, wolves, blue, got a red with a smite, and then came up to me and ganked me. All right, I've officially fed. What am I going to have to do to come back in this one? Well, I'm going to respawn. I'm going to be level 2 when she's like level 4. I'm going to come back into the lane. I'm going to farm against my tower. Incorrectly. But I'm going to try to do that. Okay, she's level 3 on level 2. She has an advantage over me. I can't trade effectively with her. I'm going to have to just, play passively and farm up. Try to go for some last hits. And, I see one there. Haha, let me get that one. Okay. That's cool. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to try to passively farm. I'm not going to engage on her because she's going to butt rape me because of it. I hit level 3. Let's get some attack speed so I can last it a little bit better. She has a little bit more creeps than me. This won't be anything. Okay, I'm just going to stay. Oh, wait, she parried me. Oh, no, she's going in on me. Let me go back in on her. Let's see if I can do anything. All right, my jungler's coming around. All right, I called for help on Skype, so my jungler's going to come here, and we're going to try to make some sort of advantage out of this one. Fiora, you're going to go back. You're going to take a lot of damage. Malphite, you'll get parried, but you'll be fine. Oh, no, Udyr's going to come in here. What's going to happen? Well, Malphite's going to take a lot of damage, and we're going to try to start trading with Udyr, even though Udyr is another champion that you don't want to necessarily try trading with an AD. We're going to, harass, get a little more damage on, but, Fiora's going to come back into this one, and, okay, nothing was lost or gained there. She's still a level ahead of me. I got a little bit of CS, gotten some damage on me, and that's about it. Fast forward a little bit more. We're still in the lane. I'm catching up a little bit, but I'm pretty far pushed, so I might want to play a little bit more passively and go back. So I do. And I pick up Ninja Tabby because I want to mitigate damage. Okay, if I'm building a little bit more tanky, I actually have 0-21-9 masteries in this one because I knew I was going against a Fiora. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to build a little more tanky and see what I could do. Okay, I come back with my Ninja. Hey, no fair. I came back with Ninja Tabby. She's ulting me. She's 2 levels higher than me. I'm going to barely get away with, the skin of my teeth. That's no fun. She's so fed right now. Who fed that Fiora? I didn't feed that Fiora. Malphite, did you feed the Fiora? What's going on? So you're going to have to keep, a heads up on that kind of stuff because, it could be very, very bad for you. Okay, well, Fiora is abusing me. So I'm going to need more help from my jungler. Here's my jungler. Is he going to come help me? Well, he's got the enemy jungler kind of on his tail. All right, he's going to play around the enemy jungler. He's not going to come help me right now. Okay. Well, I'm going to need some help eventually. Okay, I pushed her out of the lane because I have Ninja Tabby and she does not. So I'm going to be, a little bit better situation. So I'm going to try to do something, and she's going to come back. She has red buff. Okay, well, she killed my jungler. Now I'm going to have to go back, and I have 800-something gold. So I'm going to try to get a little bit more passively tanky and sustainy. Probably going to pick up a Vampiric Scepter and Cloth Armor, if I recall correctly. Cloth Armor? Come on, Tom. Vampiric Scepter. And I'm going to finish it off with some health potions. So now I have a little bit more sustain. Okay. Well, I'm going to go back in the lane. Oh, Fiora's gone. Where'd she go? All right, she came back and bought, and I think she has a Wriggles Lantern at this point. So I'm like, oh, okay. Can't trade with that. She has a red buff. She has a Wriggles Lantern. I'm getting, the shit kicked out of me. I'm at 51 CS. She's at a lot more than that. So she's farming me, she's pushing me all the way against my tower. I'm going to try to engage effectively here and have a creep advantage, but no, she has ult. It's going to be very painful. I might die. No, she's actually going to flash out of the tower range. Malphite's going to come up here. Oh, he misses the ultimate. I try to go back in and deal damage. She will kill me, but Malphite will pick up a kill on her. So even though, you know, she gains some sort of advantage from killing me, Malphite will pick up the kill here, and I actually get a decent bonus gold because she has a killing spree on me. So I'm able to actually buy a little bit more items, build my own Wriggles Lantern or pieces for it. We get back into the game. I'm still behind at this point. I'm 0-2-1. I'm losing in CS. My lane is pushing all by itself. We got to try to do some like little fancy stuff here and get in to get their golems. I'm going to you got to use these to your advantage too. Little jukes and trick steps that you could do if you're in a behind position that they're just not going to be able to really contend with. Like right there, I like stepped instead of going to the left towards my lane like I thought I was going to do. I just ran straight down for like their enemy mid lane, which they did not expect me to do. So I actually live in a situation where I shouldn't. So okay, I could be even more behind at this point. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give up my tower because I can't lane effectively anyway against her. And we're going to go to give our other lane some sort of advantage. So I'm going to go down here and get a gank down onto Ashe so we can get some sort of advantage for our Ashe. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now with an assist to my name, I'm going to go back up there, and I'm going to try to fight this Fiora with my complete Wriggles Lantern and my Ninja Tabby, even though she's knocked my tower down. Malphite's in my lane, he's helping out, so we're going to zone her out a little bit. This will let me farm up a little bit. Fiora is still going to be around, and are we going to get in a fight? I'm going to go in and bait out her parry. She's going to lunge onto me. Her parry's gone. I'm going to maybe try to go back in there. 3 Talon Strike. No, I'm just going to play it safe. So fast forward a little bit more, again a little bit more CS. You know, I'm going to try to do some sort of roaming around. We're going to stay over here by the enemy blue buff, or the enemy red buff. Actually, we're going to catch Udyr out of position, and now I get a kill. Okay, so I'm 1-2-2. I'm generating advantages other places, which is another thing you can do when you're behind in your lane. If you're losing your lane because you fed, one of the things you can do is try to generate this advantage in other lanes. We touched upon this a little bit earlier in the episode, and it can prove to be very effective. If your jungler won't go to you, go to your jungler and try to get some sort of advantage that way. So now I have a red buff. I'm going to be a little bit more scary in lane. What am I going to do to try to do this? Well, you see I'm saving up some money. Fiora's dealing a lot of damage to me. I have 127 armor, and I'm going to try something a little unorthodox against her. You know, I'm going to go in on her. We're going to trade decently. Malphite's going to come up and help scare her away. So, you know, we're going to see actually, we've cleared out her jungle, and she's actually saying, like, how long were you sitting there? Because she's going to... We're going to sit here in this bush after we clear out this entire jungle, and I'm going to go in, and she thinks it's only me. Malphite's there, and we're going to get like this big old trade down on her, and she's going to have to flash away. So she's like, a little bit later, come on, where were you, Fiora? How long were you sitting there? And my response is something witty, such as along the lines of, not long. Like since you were at red? Huh? Since we cleared the whole jungle there. So, you know, getting a little witty back and forth. We can see the CS. 82 now to 85. She is 3-1, and I'm 1-2-2. But I have a couple assists over her because I've been roaming. She stayed up top and farmed, and I'm closing the gap in CS because of help from my jungler. Now, you know, she's going to come back in. I'm going to have to be, like, passive a little bit. I look at my goal. I notice I have 1350. What am I going to do? I'm going to go back and get an item that's unorthodox on Xin Zhao at this point, in Warden's Mail. I built no damage aside from maybe a little bit from Wriggles Lantern. I have 181 armor. I am built to counter Fiora so hard at this point that I'm going to naturally generate an advantage for me in my lane so that next time we get in a fight, I'm going to be ready for this. So I'm farming up my lane. I'm in my lane, yada, yada, yada. Okay, Fiora, you're going to pop up sometime, right? All right, Fiora's over here. So I'm going to farm up my lane. You know, I think I can win this trade now. I've been behind basically all game, but I've had a lot of help from my jungler, and I've had a lot of other ways to come back in. So I'm going to bait out the parry from Fiora. She's going to go in. I'm going to turn on her. I'm going to activate my, Ignite a little early and pop the ghost to catch up. Ultimates, 3 Talon Strikes, and we start the trade. All of a sudden, what's happening? She pops her ultimate. I'm not even below. I'm like barely below half health. All of a sudden, I've built my way back into this game, and she can't fight me anymore. So those are ways you could come back from behind. I actually wanted to talk a little bit more about like you know, like, oh, like, what would you do as a team to come back from behind? I've actually talked about it a little bit, like I said, in the Dignitas versus Curse NA game from the Curse Invitational. But, basically, you know, I'm actually running very short on time. This went a lot longer than I thought it would. But I'm getting, like, messages like, Optimus Tom, where are you? At the Cast IPL, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I'm actually going to wrap it up right here, guys. But, you know, Colin, thank you for such a really good question, because now we've evaluated a lot of ways that we could go in and get back from being behind, whether it's discussing our item builds, runes and masteries, champion selections, play styles. Most importantly, you know, I think I already said item builds, but that's most importantly, like item builds and like how you're going to play in your lane to try to counteract the fact that you might be getting, you know, kind of hard countered. So anyway, guys, hopefully you could learn something from this one. It's a little bit more of a lesson for the newer guys, the Summoner's Rift or the ranked matches anyway, but you're going to be able to generate an advantage from a disadvantage if you play properly when you're on Summoner's Rift. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this episode of In the Zone. Once again, check me out, Optimus Tom, on Twitter, at Optimus Tom, Facebook.com/OptimusTomTV. Also, check out GG Chronicle on Facebook and Twitter, Facebook.com/GG Chronicle, or at GG Chronicle on Facebook. Check out the GG Classic, or the LeagueCraft GG Classic Invitational Tournament happening in the middle of July. Round Robin group stage is going to be fantastic, and then break it down to the winners bracket the following weekend, the 14th and 15th of July, and the 22nd and 23rd. It's going to be really epic games. Make sure you guys check them out and check out all those tactics that they're using. And when you look at them and you identify them, you could be like, where did I see that before? It was on Optimus Tom's In the Zone. Stay classy, guys. I'll see you at FPL Cast.